Welcome to the Pet Loss Companion. I'm Dolan-Del Vecchio here with my friend and co-author Nancy Saxton-Lopez. And this is a program that we do live every Thursday from 6 p.m. Eastern till about 6:30. And a lot of what we do on the program is we read letters that we receive from audience members telling us about their experiences of love and loss and how they're doing in the aftermath of their animal companion's passing. And so we're going to do that today. This program is an outgrowth, I guess you could say, of the book that we wrote a while back called The Pet Loss Companion, Healing Advice from Family Therapists Who Lead Pet Loss Groups. And there's a link to the book in the description. There's a link to a whole bunch of other things too that may be of interest to you. And I also would like you to know that you can write to us. You can reach me at kenddv at gmail.com, Nancy at nancysaxtonlopez at gmail.com. And this program is a friend of Dakin Humane Society in Springfield, Massachusetts. Dakin does all kinds of wonderful things in addition to being a shelter and adoption program. And one of the things that they do, one of the resources they offer is a pet loss support meeting via Zoom that I facilitate once a month on the second Tuesday of the month. So it'll be next Tuesday, which is the 8th, from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. There's an RSVP link in the description that accompanies the program. And we'd like to ask you, if you haven't already, to subscribe. If you have subscribed, if you could give a thumbs up or leave a comment. These are all things that help other people who may benefit from the program to find it and begin to benefit and gain some support from listening to the stories of other people. Also, we'd just like you to know that the program has an affiliation with a company called Bereave that makes these really well-crafted memorial plaques. And if you purchase a plaque through the link in our description, we will get a little bit of support money from your purchase as well. And Nancy, you want to get us started for today?
We have two stories tonight. And I'm going to read Victor with his Lila. And Ken's going to read Grace with her Dixie. And they're, as usual, they're very heartbreaking stories, but very heartwarming stories at the same time. And we give Victor a lot of courage for allowing us to read his story. And so I will start with it. Hi, Ken and Nancy. I'm looking forward to sharing my story with you because I'm a mess at this moment. My name is Victor and my family. And I lost our oldest dog, Howie, on September 12th of 2024. Howie was the older brother of our rescue and younger sister, Lila. Lila was very upset after Howie passed away from cancer a few months ago, and I tried my best to make Lila happy, walking her daily and spoiling her daily with all my love and treats. Yesterday, I decided to take her to a quick walk on the dog park by our house. Due to the heat, I drove her to the dog park and quickly came back home. After parking in front of our house, I got distracted with an item left in the front of our neighbor's house, so I left my car and went to take care of the item. I moved the item to the neighbor's driveway and went inside my house without remembering to get Lila out of the car. A few hours later, 2 exactly, my in-laws, daughter and wife asked me where Lila was. And I desperately ran to the car screaming because I knew how hot the day was. She was already unconscious. Everyone was screaming. I tried CPR and everything possible, but she was already gone. I'm in total disbelief that this happened to Lila under my supervision. I don't know how to ask for forgiveness from my family and how to forgive myself. I'm writing you a high-level detail because just remembering the image of her laying down on the car floor makes me cry. I'm a huge mess and I don't know what to do. I keep rethinking what I could have done to avoid this. I feel like a monster. I keep rethinking the whole day and what I did wrong. If she suffered, how could I, as her guardian, have forgotten her after I intentionally took the car to avoid her from getting hot at all? I found your podcast and felt like writing this letter because I don't know what else to do. I didn't mean to do that, but I caused her death and I don't know how to cope. What should I do? I have to work this week and attend important meetings. I would never hurt Lila. A lack of attention cost my girl's life. Wow, right? This is a very difficult situation.
Yeah, and I have to emphasize what you said before, that we really appreciate Victor sharing this. It takes a lot of courage. We have heard this story many times, and never has a person been willing to share it.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been other instances where an accident or an oversight have caused an animal to die, and we've heard those and we've shared those, but we've never heard this, which is it's unfortunately a common occurrence. And we've actually had people, when we were doing the groups in person, had a couple people call and say, I can't come to the meeting because I can't say this in front of other people. And we encouraged them to come because we knew that they would be welcomed with great empathy and not with judgment, because we all make errors. But I just can't thank Victor enough, because the people who hear this story, who have been in similar circumstances, will benefit immensely from his courageous sharing.
Right. And I go back, how many years, helping people, guiding, providing treatment, counseling to a few people that unfortunately left their animal, or somebody else left their animal in a hot car and died. And I have been working with someone for a while, more recently, and it's just a horrendous feeling, right? That's what Victor's saying. Oh, man, I killed my Lila, right? And she felt the same way, and that I'm not a good person, and what will people think? And unfortunately, we live in a time that there's a lot of people that can say not very nice things, right? But what I loved about that, what my client that I'm working with said, and I think people should hear it, and I did write this to Victor, is this incident cannot define me as a person. Right? Victor is a good man, right? He's a good person. My client's a good person, right? And sometimes we just have accidents happen. He never wanted to have this happen to Lila. All the people that I've worked with in this situation never wanted to hurt their animal. And it was just something that happened. And it was caused a lot of anguish,
Yeah. And we've heard other stories where animals get into a plastic bag that somebody left, or they get run over by the family car because people didn't know where they were. They weren't sure that they weren't under the wheels. And so, I mean, there's countless ways that this kind of tragedy can happen. And it's just important to know that we do the best we can. We try our hardest to give our animals consistent, loving care, support, attention, and sometimes some kind of oversight, some kind of error, a bit of forgetfulness, and the tragedy results.
Actually, we had someone that some months ago, I think it was a family, that the mom thought that dad had the dog in the car, but then the mom had the dog in the car, and then they realized that the dog was in one of the cars that had died. So it's just so unfortunate.
Well, we hear about this happening with little children too.
Yes,
and it's really it's a great tragedy. And so
we have been in touch with Victor. I think you have been in touch.
Oh yes, we've been in touch, and he's doing better.
Yeah,
which is great, and he's reaching out to a therapist, which is really a good idea. And he's totally open about this, and he shared it with us because he allowed us to share it because he knew that it would touch other people in a way that would make them feel less isolated in this kind of tragic situation.
And
So it's
we
really
all,
really generous.
yes, and we all make mistakes sometimes, or mistakes
Yep.
happen, or accidents happen.
Yep.
And it's at that point to be kind to people and
Right.
to be in the place they feel so bad,
Yep.
that
Yep.
we want to have some empathy for where they are because they never would have wanted
Yep.
it.
Well, let's show a couple of pictures of. This is Lila. She was beautiful,
Mhm.
and she was very much a lap
Oh,
dog, even though she was big. And she was very loved.
much loved, right? And Howie, sorry about Howie too, right? She
Yeah.
lost
Yeah. Yep.
her brother, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So we want to thank Victor very much for sharing this story. And before
Our
we go
hearts
on,
go out to you.
our heart, absolutely, and keep us posted on how you're doing. I also just wanted to mention that Crystal Susie has a cost-free support group on Sundays, Sunday at 11 a.m. And she is actually going to be joining us in a couple of weeks and
Yeah.
telling us about her work of becoming a pet loss coach and group leader. So you can get involved with Crystal at Get Crystal Clear. That's GetCrystalClear. GetCrystalClear.com, and look into her support groups. That's same address /support groups, support-groups, or just go to her site and look for her support group. So we'll be talking with her in a couple of weeks and learning more about what she's doing and her journey toward becoming a coach and counselor for people who have lost their beloved animal companions. So our next story is from Grace, and she writes, "Thank you for reading my submission. After hearing a few episodes of your podcast, I am hopeful that writing down my story will be cathartic or at least offer some peace. I'm going to tell you about Dixie Dog. I always told people I didn't name her, but her name is Dixie. And she knew her name, so I'd have to caution them that they were commanding her to come when they said her name. She knew a lot. She never stopped learning and asking me to teach her more. She wanted to work, and I always found jobs for her. I realized at the end of her life, when she didn't want to let go, that her biggest job was taking care of me. I got Dixie Dog for a couple of reasons. At first, it was to become a Canada Goose control canine, which she did do. I was her handler, and we worked elegantly as a team to haze geese in parks and golf courses. She waited by my side or in the golf cart until I gave the specific command. She always listened. She always cared to do a good job. Within a short amount of time, it became clear that Dixie Dog was more than my colleague or even more than my companion animal. I have a history of complex trauma, and for more elaborate reasons that I want to go into here, I have been alone. No family, limited friends who have time for me, and while I found therapy, it became clear that Dixie Dog offered me emotional support far above any other thing in my life. I began feeling that I had her when I woke up in the morning. I began feeling safe that I had her when I woke up in the morning. And she made this woman with a lost heart feel like she had a home. Dixie was a McNabb collie. You would see them winning all the agility contests the last few years. And boy, was she a marvel. With a Frisbee in the park, she would do midair backflips. People would stop and applaud. She helped me carry groceries. She put away toys during the winter months. I trained her to play hide and seek with her toys, each of which had a name she distinguished. I took her fishing on boats, and she was my bestie for 5 road trips across America and live with me in high rises and on literal farms in 3 different states. And I think that should have been, and lived with me in a high rise and on literal farms in 3 different states. In November of 2023, I was in the middle of my clinical residency, and I'd been living on student loans and eating out of food pantries. It's hard to go back to college as a poor kid, especially without anyone supporting you, but I had Dixie Dog through it all. This is when she caught a cold that wouldn't quit, and I learned it was high-grade B-cell lymphoma. Within days, she went from the star athlete to bedridden and struggling to breathe. She was 8 years old at this point, and we had shared every moment, just her and I, that whole time. I chose to fight for her life. I began applying for animal chemotherapy funding assistance through foundations. I literally had no money, and every treatment was about $800. I had spreadsheets to track applications and all the small grants, all while I was trying to finish my last year of graduate school. Every trip to the oncologist was 5-hour round-trip drive every 2 weeks, and that became our normal. She went into remission, beautiful remission they called it, but I was told her cancer had a mean survival time of 1 year after diagnosis. We moved again after I graduated, but I took a job on a very isolated part of an indigenous reservation in Arizona. This made us very far from services. I see feral dogs everywhere here, especially animals that have been killed by vehicles, which made for quite a dichotomy, saving my dog from cancer and passing 5 other dogs which had no owner or home. Our new oncologist was a 7-hour round trip, and a trip to town for groceries was an all-day plan. In February of 2025, Dixie Dog's lumps came back. I dropped everything to get her more chemo, this time with my whole paycheck. She had beaten the 1-year milestone, but I couldn't stop trying. We had been fighting for over a year and still were living our lives together with joy. Eventually, it got worse. It crossed her blood-brain barrier, and for the last 3 weeks, she fell when she walked, and I was carrying this former beautiful athlete like a princess and helping her stand to pee. Cancer is funny like that, dying one day, and then after drugs, it's like it never happened. This made it nearly impossible to tell when it was her time, when to give up trying. I made an appointment for euthanasia, and I couldn't follow through. It was a 3-hour drive I dreaded. I told her, "I'm sorry, I just can't kill you," and continued to give her painkillers. Here are my regrets. The last 2 nights of her life, I put her in the room next to mine because I couldn't sleep. I was so sleep deprived I was barely functioning. She was panting all night, and I got irritated at that, and she knew it. I'd made a plan to take her to go to the oncologist Wednesday, and Tuesday night I got up every 2 hours to help her get comfortable and situated. I last saw her at 4 a.m. when she had peed herself, and I left the pee in her bed knowing I would have to get up at 6 a.m. to take her to the oncologist. That was the last I saw her, and it was short and not loving, just a sleepy stupor. When I went in at 6 a.m., her nose was in blankets, ears in the air, and she was dead. But her nose was hot, like she had suffocated because she couldn't move. I held her for a half hour, covered her, and then took a 4-hour drive with her body to the vet who would cremate her. It was traumatic, it was horrendous, and I was alone. I'm still carrying so much guilt for prolonging her life, only to have her die alone and scared. I should have been there comforting her. I should never have left her side. I am so hurt she left when she was scared and alone. I can never fix that. I am at week 2 of grieving. I cannot express to people how deeply connected that dog and I were and still are, and how hard it is to lose her without any support. This is the longest safe, close relationship of my life, and I've lost it. I'm left alone to clean my house of her, and I still think she'll be there when I wake up in the morning. What I want to know is, where is she now? What happened to her spirit or soul? Can she still see me or hear me? Is she somewhere where she feels safe? Who is with her now? I'm not religious. I believe in nature. But this death has made me need answers beyond science. I need to know that she is okay and that she knows that she doesn't have to take care of me anymore. I heard that the traditional Japanese belief is that a person has 3 hearts. One you show the world, one you show only those closest to you, and one you keep only for yourself. I believe dogs get into that 3rd heart you can only show yourself. And that's why it hurts so dearly and in a way that we cannot tell the world, because It is our heart that the world cannot understand. Thank you, Nancy and Ken, and thank you, Dixie Dog, for taking such good care of me, sweet girl.
Oh,
Wow, really powerful. Really,
very,
really
very
powerful.
powerful. Very, very sad. So sad. That dog was her life.
Yeah,
And that dog
yeah,
saved her.
yeah.
You know,
As so
she
many
had
do.
yes,
They really do.
they do.
And
I mean, she had such a traumatic, beginning,
mhm.
and that dog was an amazing dog and loved her so much. But we need to talk about the guilt because, she feels so bad that she was not with her
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
time. Um, I also have to say, I mean, unfortunately, where she was living, I mean, the hours
yeah,
going back and forth for treatment,
yeah.
it's
It's
just so hard.
really overwhelming. I mean, she was
Yeah.
in an overwhelming situation, and she made a decision like we all do, which is I'm going to have to get up in a couple hours, and I'm going to drive several hours, and she's resting, and she's
Yeah.
so she peed her bed. It's not a big deal. I'll
We're
clean it
gonna
up
get up.
later.
Well, yeah. Well, we're getting up in 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
So, and
So
unfortunately, Dixie died. But um, Dixie is in spirit, though. She's very concerned about where Dixie is,
yeah,
right? And I think I wrote her this that my belief is that, and I would hope that if this would be helpful, but they're around and she's not angry at her and
yeah,
she doesn't hold any judgment and she's doesn't hold any malice. She's not critical of her mom, you know.
yeah. And I wrote to her too and said that I, like her, believe in the cycles of nature, and that
Hmm.
there is a process, that a cycle that we all go through. We're born, we mature, we have an adulthood, then we decline, we die. And I believe that the cycle continues, and that wherever we are in that interim is not a place that doesn't make sense to me, that it would be painful or anything like that, that it would be
No.
quiet and restorative. And
Yeah.
there's a great book called After, and it's by a physician. I can't remember his first name, but his last name is Grayson. The book is called After. And he's somebody who has studied near death experiences and communication and weird ways that people perceive that are extra normal. And it's really a very interesting book, and he has some very interesting ideas about death and spirit, and I highly recommend it. And I just put out a short about this subject, and a person commented that they find that book very helpful to
Mm.
them because they ask these questions all the time personally. Where did my loved one go? So it's something to think about. And people have different philosophies. They have different ways of making some kind of peace with the unknowable.
Yeah.
And we all have our ways of doing that. And I hope that Grace is feeling a large degree of peace at this point. But if she reads what Dr. Grayson wrote, she'll see that there are those who believe that there are many dimensions of the soul, and that the
Yes.
soul can be in different places at different times, at the same time, I should say, and can be close at hand even after death. And so it's very interesting to look at the various kinds of philosophies, and also the research around
Yes.
this kind of experience. And so
Well, we have what was the article that we got from
Rupert
Rupert?
Sheldrake.
Right,
Rupert
right,
Sheldrake is
right.
another researcher on this subject, and these are people who are willing to explore and do research outside the usual
Hmm.
accepted boundaries of what's considered scientific inquiry. And what they come up with is, I think it's really powerful and compelling. So always something to consider. That, you know, one of my family therapy mentors used to say there are many ways of knowing, not just traditional Western experimental process. And I think that's a very, very powerful comment, that there are many ways of knowing. And
Yes.
so just
Good
interesting
comment.
to consider that and also I think that we just don't know. And so we find ways to make sense of things that are beyond actual, the kind of knowledge that we see as consensual.
And sometimes that's helpful. I mean, I
Yeah.
believe that they're around. I'm sure Ellie's listening right now. That's what the animal communicator
I mean,
said.
I've seen,
She's there
yeah,
with you during the podcast.
yeah. I mean, I've seen what I believe to be the essence or the spirit of my dogs who have passed. I've seen them playing with
Yeah.
my dogs who are alive today, as I know it. You know, as we know things to be alive, and so I trust my perceptions, and I think we all
Yeah.
should.
Great. You were the best mom.
Yeah, she was absolutely, and
You loved her
we're
so
hoping
much.
she finds peace, and it sounds like she had an incredible relationship with
Amazing.
Dixie Dog.
Amazing
Yeah.
relationship.
So thank you, Grace, for sharing, and thanks, Victor, once again. And as always, it's been great speaking with you, Nancy. And if you could leave a comment or a thumbs up or subscribe if you haven't, that's always helpful, and it helps the algorithm to help people find the program if it will be helpful to them.
Yes.
And so we'll talk again next week.
We will talk next week. And I wish everyone who's in the United States Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July. That's right.